The dash cloud appeared on the horizon just as the sun began its descent behind the jagged peaks of the Colorado Rockies, casting long shadows across the abandoned Catley Ranch that sat like a forgotten monument in the vast wilderness. Jake Morrison had been riding hard for 3 days straight, his horse's flanks sleek with sweat and fall. When he first spotted the deviated wooden structure that would either be his salvation or his doom. The year was again 72, and the frontier was no place for a man running from his past. But Jake had little choice in the matter after what had happened back in the Adwood. His saddlebags contained everything he owned in this world, a measly $43 in silver coins, a rusted Colt 45 with only 4 bullets remaining, and a letter from his dying brother that had led him to this God-forsaken corner of Wyoming territory. As his mare stumbled slightly on the rocky ground, Jake pulled back on the reins and studied the ranch house before him, noting the way the evening light seemed to avoid the structure entirely, as if the very building existed in perpetual shadow. The windows were dark and leafless, yet he could spy some movement behind the dusty glass panes on the second floor. 3 figures stood motionless on the wraparound porch, their long dresses billowing in the desert wind, and even from a distance of several hundred yards. Jake could feel their eyes boring into his soul with an intensity that made his skin crawl. What Jake Morrison didn't know as he approached the seemingly abandoned ranch house was that the 3 women standing on that porch had been waiting for him specifically. And they had been waiting for exactly 17 years 4 months, and 6 days. The eldest of the sisters, Evangeline Whitmore, possessed an otherworldly beauty that had once made strong men vain and powerful men beg. But her pale blue eyes held secrets darker than the deepest mine shaft in the Colorado mountains. Her younger sisters, Cordelia and Serafina, flanked her like sentinels. Their identical faces bearing expressions of anticipation mixed with something that could only be described as hunger. The ranch had belonged to their father, Jeremiah Whitmore, until that terrible night in 1855 when everything had changed forever. And now the property served as both their prison and their hunting ground. As Jack's horse drew closer, Evangeline smoothed her midnight black hair and adjusted the silver locket that hung around her neck. The same locket that contained a photograph of a man who bore a striking resemblance to the very traveler approaching their domain. The desert wind carried whispers of the past across the barren landscape, and somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled a warning that Jake would be wise to it. Though he would not understand the true meaning of that mournful cry until it was far too late to turn back. Jack's horse snorted and paved nervously at the hard-packed earth as they drew within shouting distance of the ranch house. And he could now see that the 3 women were indeed watching him with unsettling focus that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up straight. The build itself appeared to be in better condition than he had initially thought, with fresh paint on the shutters and not a single board out of place. Which struck him as odd considering how isolated the location was from any semblance of civilization. The nearest town, Cedar Rapids, was at least a 2-day ride through treacherous mountain passes. And Jake had seen no evidence of other travelers or settlers for the past 48 hours. As he guided his exhausted mount up the winding dirt path that led to the front of the house, he noticed that the ground around the property was strangely barren. With no grass or wildflowers growing anywhere within a 50-foot radius of the structure, as if the very earth itself had been cursed or poisoned by some unseen force. The eldest sister stepped forward as Jake brought his horse to a halt at the base of the porch steps. Her movements graceful and deliberate like those of a predator stalking its prey through tall grass. She wore a dress of deep purple silk that seemed far too expensive and elaborate for life on the frontier, and her skin was so pale it appeared almost translucent in the fading daylight. When she spoke, her voice carried a melodic quality that was both beautiful and deeply unsettling, like the sound of wind chimes made from human bones. She introduced herself as Evangeline and gestured to her companions as Cordelia and Serafina, explaining that they were the daughters of the late Jeremiah Whitmore and the current proprietors of the Whitmore Ranch. Jake dismounted slowly, his legs stiff from days in the saddle, and tipped his four-letter hat in greeting while studying the three women more carefully. There was something not quite right about their appearance, though Recold could immediately put his finger on what was bothering him about their perfectly symmetrical faces and unnaturally bright eyes. Evangeline's lips curved into a smile that didn't hit those pale blue orbs as she extended an invitation that would change the course of Jack's life forever. Asking in that hypnotic voice whether he would care to stay the night with them at the Hint House rather than continuing his journey in the dangerous darkness. She explained that travelers were here in this part of Wyoming territory, and they would be delegated to offer him a hot meal, a warm bed, and the company of three lonely women who seldom had visitors to break the monotony of their isolated existence. Jake hesitated for a moment, every instinct repossessed screaming at him to politely decline the offer and continue reading until he reached the safety of Cedar Rapids. But his horse was near collapse and his own body was pushed to its limits after the grueling journey from South Dakota. The promise of food and shelter was too tempting to refuse, especially when delivered by such beautiful hostesses. And he found himself nodding in agreement before his rational mind could override the decision. As Jake unsaddled his horse and led the animal to what appeared to be a well-maintained stable behind the main house, he noticed several peculiarities about the property that added to his growing sense of unease. The stable contained stalls for at least a dozen horses, but his mare was the only animal present. And the indefeated trogs looked fresh despite the apparent lack of livestock. More disturbing still were the scratches and gouges in the wooden walls of the stalls, marks that looked suspiciously like claw marks from some large predator. Though no creature Jake knew of in this region possessed claws capable of leaving such deep furrows in seasoned oak. The three sisters watched his every movement from their positions on the porch, never seeming to blink or shift their gazes even when removed out of their direct line of sight. And he could swear he heard them whispering a mountain selves in a language he didn't recognize. The interior of the Hint House was even more impressive than the exterior, furnished with expensive pieces that seemed wildly out of place in the middle of the Wyoming wilderness. Persian rugs covered polished hardwood floors, crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceilings, and oil paintings in gilded frames adorned every wall, depicting scenes of European countries that seemed to mock the harsh reality of frontier life just outside the windows. Serafina, the youngest of the three sisters, led Jake to a guest room on the second floor while her siblings disappeared into what he assumed was the kitchen to prepare the promised meal. The bedroom was spacious and comfortable, with a four-poster bed draped in silk curtains and a joyride-topped vachadtan complete with a porcelain pitcher and basin decorated with hand-painted roses. As Jake cleaned the trail dashed from his face and hands, Recold could shake the feeling that he was being watched through the ornate mirror above the vachadtan. Though every time he turned to look behind him, the room appeared empty except for his own reflection. The feeling persisted even after he had changed into a clean shirt from his saddlebags and made his way back downstairs to join his hostesses for dinner. The dining room was illuminated by dozens of candles in silver candelabras, casting dancing shadows on the walls that seemed to move independently of the flickering flames. The three sisters had changed their clothes and now wore matching of midnight blue that accentuated their pale complexions and made their eyes appear even more luminous in the candlelight. The meal they served was unlike anything Jake had expected to find in such a remote location, consisting of perfectly prepared roast beef, fresh vegetables, and wine that must have cost more than most frontier families earn in a month. Throughout the dinner, the conversation flowed smoothly but seemed to circle around topics that made Jake increasingly uncomfortable. As the sisters asked probing questions about his family history, his reasons for traveling through Wyoming territory, and his plans for the future, Evangeline seemed particularly interested in his deceased brother Thomas. Though Jake was certain he had never mentioned his siblings' name during their brief introduction earlier, When he finally asked how she knew about Thomas, her smile became even more enigmatic, and she simply stated that the Whitmore family had ways of learning about people who came to their haunt. As the evening progressed and the wine flowed freely, Jake found himself becoming drowsy despite his best efforts to remain alert and cautious around his mysterious hostesses. The three sisters took turns telling him stories about the history of their haunt and the surrounding territory, tales filled with violence, betrayal, and unexplained disappearances that seemed designed to both entertain and unnerve their guests. Cordelia spoke of Apache raids and Klein jumpers who had vanished without a trace, while Serafina regaled him with ghost stories about miners who had gone mad searching for gold in the Nearby Mountains. Evangeline's contributions were the most disturbing of all, as she described in vivid detail the fate of previous travelers who had accepted their hospitality over the years. Men who had arrived seeking shelter and had chosen to stay permanently as guests of the Whitmore sisters. The wine and the warmth of the fire in the massive stone fireplace eventually overcame Jack's resolve to stay vigilant, and he excused himself to retire to his assigned bedroom. Though not before noticing that none of the three sisters appeared to be affected by the alcohol they had consumed throughout the evening. As he climbed the stairs to the second floor, he could hear them whispering again in that strange language. Their voices carrying a musical quality that seemed to resonate in his bones and make his head spin even more than the wine had managed to accomplish. The guest room felt different than it had earlier in the evening, with shadows that seemed deeper and more substantial. As if they possessed a life of their own and were slowly creeping across the floor toward his bed. Jack's sleep that night was plagued by vivid nightmares featuring the three sisters. Though in his dreams they appeared as they truly were rather than the beautiful women they presented themselves to be during waking hours. He saw them as ancient creatures with elongated limbs, razor sharp teeth, and eyes that glowed like embers in the darkness, stalking through the rent house in search of victims to satisfy their unholy hunger. In the most disturbing dream of all, he witnessed the fate of his brother Thomas, who had apparently visited this same rent 17 years earlier and had been transformed into something that was neither fully alive nor completely dead. Forced to serve as a guardian spirit protecting the three sisters from anyone who might threaten their dark existence. When Jake awoke the next morning, sunlight was streaming through the windows, and he could hear the sounds of breakfast being prepared downstairs, along with the cheerful voices of his hostesses discussing their plans for the day. For a moment, he wondered if the previous evening had been nothing more than an elaborate nightmare brought on by exhaustion and too much wine. But then he noticed that his clothes and belongings had been moved during the night, rearranged in a way that suggested someone had been searching through his possessions while he slept. More troubling still was the discovery that his Colt 45 was missing from his gun belt. Though he was certain he had placed it on the nightstand beside his bed before retiring for the evening. The three sisters greeted him warmly when he appeared in the dining room, though he thought he detected a subtle change in their demeanor, a predator glare in their eyes that had to be present the night before, or perhaps he was simply more aware of it now that the light had burned away some of the wine-induced fog from his brain. Evangeline explained that they had taken the liberty of caring for his horse during the night, ensuring that the animal was well fed and rested for the continuation of his journey. Though she expressed hope that he might consider extending his stay for at least one more evening, the offer was presented in such a way that Jake understood it was not really a request but rather a command disguised as hospitality. And when he politely declined and stated his intention to leave immediately after breakfast, he noticed that all three sisters exchanged meaningful glances that filled him with dread. It was Cordelia who finally revealed the truth about the Whitmore rent and the fate that awaited any men who accepted their invitation to stay the night, explaining that they were not entirely human and had not been so for many decades. Cursed by their father's greed and their unvanity to exist in a state between life and death until they could find someone worthy of breaking the spell that bound them to this desolate place. She described how they had lured dozens of travelers to the hint over the years. Mon who had disappeared without a trace and was bones now fertilized the barren ground around the house. Their life force absorbed by the three sisters to maintain their beautiful appearances and supernatural abilities. Jack's brother Thomas had been different from the others, possessing a strengthening of spirit that had allowed him to resist their initial attempts at domination, and they had been forced to employ more subtle methods to claim his soul. The revelation that Thomas had indeed visited this hint 17 years earlier and had never left alive sent Jake into a rage that overcame his fear of the three supernatural predators, and he lunged across the breakfast table in a attempt to strangle Evangeline with his bare hands. His attack was futile, as she possessed strength far beyond that of any mortal woman, and she easily threw him across the room with enough force to crack several of his ribs against the stone fireplace. As he struggled to regain his footing, gasping for air and tasting blood in his mouth, Serafina produced his missing pistol and pointed it directly at his chest, though her finger remained poised over the trigger after the pulling it immediately. The three sisters seemed to be enjoying his helpless fury, feeding off his emotions like vampires drawing sustenance from blood, and they explained that his death would be far more satisfying if he chose to resist rather than submit immediately to his fate. What the Whitmore sisters had not anticipated was that Jake Morrison possessed the same spiritual strength that had made his brother Thomas such a challenging adversary, along with knowledge of their true nature that Thomas had somehow managed to communicate through the letter that had brought Jake to Wyoming territory in the first place. The seemingly innocent correspondence had contained hidden messages written in a code that only the Morrison brothers understood. Warnings about supernatural dangers and instructions for defeating creatures that most men would dismiss as folklore and superstition. Thomas had discovered the weakness of the three sisters during his final days at the hint, learning that they could be destroyed permanently if their physical forms were exposed to direct sunlight while they were in their true supernatural state rather than wearing the beautiful human disguises they maintained through soul and life force. Jack's preparing the feat had been a carefully orchestrated deception designed to lower the sisters' guard and make them careless in their moment of anticipated triumph, and he had used those precious seconds to position himself near the heavy curtains that covered the dining room windows. With a desperate burst of energy fueled by grief for his murdered brother and rage at the countless innocent victims who had perished at this hint, he grabbed the thick fabric and yanked with all his remaining strength, tearing the curtains from their rods and flooding the room with brilliant morning sunlight that struck the three sisters like physical blows. Their human disguises began to melt away immediately, revealing the hideous creatures they had become over the decades of feeding on human souls. Beings with grey mottled skin, elongated limbs ending in razor-sharp claws, and faces that were only vaguely recognizable as having once been human. The sunlight caused them excruciating pain, and their inhuman shrieks issued through the hint house as they scrambled desperately for the shadows. But Jake had torn down every curtain in the room, and there was no escape from the cleansing rays that began to consume their corrupted flesh like acid. Evangeline made one final attempt to hit him before her destruction was complete. Her claws extended and her mouth opened to reveal holes of needly sharp teeth, but she collapsed mere inches from her intended victim as the last of her soul and life force was burned away by the purifying light. Her sisters followed moments later, their bodies crumbling to dust that was immediately scattered by the morning breeze blowing through the now open windows. In the sudden silence that followed the destruction of the three sisters, Jake heard a familiar voice calling his name, and returned to see the translucent figure of his brother Thomas standing the doorway between the dining room and the main hallway of the house. The spirit appeared exactly as Jake remembered him from their childhood, before the hardships of frontier life had aged and deteriorated his features, and his expression was one of profound relief and gratitude. Thomas explained that he had been trapped within the hint house for 17 years, Unable to move on to whatever awaited beyond death as long as the three sisters continued to exist, but now that they had been destroyed, he was finally free to find the peace that had been denied to him for so long. He thanked his younger brother for having the courage to complete the mission that he had been unable to finish during his own lifetime, and with a final smile of farewell, his spirit faded away like morning mist touched by sunlight. Jake spent the remainder of that day searching the rent house from top to bottom, discovering hidden rooms filled with the personal belongings of the sisters' victims. Trunks containing hundreds of gold coins and precious gems that represented the accumulated wealth of decades of murder and theft. In the basements beneath the kitchen, he found evidence of unspeakable rituals and a detailed journal written in Jeremiah Whitmore's hand that described his daughters' transformation from normal human beings into the supernatural predators they had become. The rancher had been experimenting with dark magic learned from a crow Indian medicine man, seeking to grant his family immortality and unlimited power. But the spell had gone horribly wrong, creating monsters instead of gods and binding them to the rent house until they could find a way to break the curse through the sacrifice of a man with the spiritual strength to resist their initial seduction. The journal revealed that Thomas Morrison had indeed possessed that necessary strength, but his resistance had only delayed his fate rather than preventing it entirely, as the sisters had eventually wore down his defenses through months of psychological torture and supernatural manipulation. His death had provided them with enough solemn life force to maintain their human appearances for another 17 years. But they had been unable to complete the ritual that would have freed them from their cursed existence because Thomas had managed to hide his true name and family history from them even under the most extreme duress. Without that crucial information, they could not perform the final ceremony that would have transferred their curse to another bloodline and allowed them to escape their prison. Jake realized that his arrival at the rent had not been a coincidence but rather the result of careful planning by his brother's spirit, who had somehow influenced events from beyond the grave to ensure that someone would eventually come to complete the work he had begun. The letter that had brought Jake to Wyoming territory had been more than just a final goodbye from a dying man. It had been a tactical manual for defeating supernatural enemies and a map leading to the location where justice could finally be served. Every detail of his journey from the Edward to the Whitmore rent had been orchestrated by forces beyond his understanding. From the timing of his departure to the specific route he had chosen through the mountains. As evening approached and shadows began to lengthen across the now peaceful rent house, Jake made the decision to burn the entire structure to the ground, ensuring that no trace remained of the evil that had festered there for so many years. He used lamp oil from the kitchen and candles from the dining room to create a conflagration that could be seen for miles across the Wyoming wilderness. A funeral pyre that would serve as both a memorial to the innocent victims and a warning to any other creatures that might consider establishing themselves in this remote corner of the territory. The flames consumed everything within hours, reducing the elaborate furnishings and hidden chambers to ash and charred timber that would eventually be scattered by the desert winds. Jake spent that final night camped several hundred yards from the burning rent house, watching the fire consume the last physical evidence of the Whitmore sisters' reign of terror while reflecting on the strange turns his life had taken since leaving South Dakota. The gold and gems he had discovered in the basement were more than enough to ensure his financial security for the rest of his days. But he had no intention of profiting from the suffering of the sisters' victims, and he planned to donate the treasure to the territorial government for use in establishing schools and hospitals in the frontier communities that desperately needed such institutions. When morning came and the fire had burned itself out, leaving nothing but a foundation of blackened stone and twisted metal where the rent house had once stood, Jake saddled his horse and prepared to continue his journey westward toward California and whatever new life awaited him there. As he rode away from the ruins, he felt a profound sense of closure and purpose. Knowing that he had not only avenged his brother's murder but had also prevented countless future victims from suffering the same fate. The desert wind carried no whispers of supernatural malevolence now. Only the natural sounds of a wilderness reclaiming land that had been tainted by human evil and otherworldly corruption. Years later, when Jake Morrison had established himself as a successful business in San Francisco and the events at the Whitmore Ranch had faded to the status of an occasionally recurring nightmare, he would sometimes wonder whether the three sisters had truly been destroyed or had simply been banished to some other realm where they continued to exist in a state of eternal punishment for their crimes. He never spoke of his experiences in Wyoming territory to anyone, understanding that few people would believe such a fantastic tale. But he always kept a small portion of the gold he had claimed from the ranch house. Not for personal use but as a reminder of the responsibility that came with possessing knowledge of the supernatural forces that lurked in the shadows of the world, waiting for opportunities to prey upon the innocent and unwary travelers who ventured too far from the safety of civilization.